One rainy autumn evening, a young girl named Emily decided to spend the evening at home, sitting at the computer and immersed in the world of the internet. She was inquisitive and always eager to learn something new, but this time her curiosity led to terrible consequences. Emily began to explore the dark corners of the internet, looking for information about forbidden topics and mysterious events. She came across a forum where users were discussing mystical rituals and occult practices. Fascinated by these topics, she began to study articles and watch videos about various spells and curses. Every day, Emily plunged deeper into the world of darkness. She began experimenting with magical rituals, hoping to gain supernatural abilities or contact spirits. However, she did not suspect that she was playing with fire. One day, while Emily was browsing one of the forums, she came across a strange link. It was written that this link leads to the world of shadows and opens access to forbidden knowledge. Passionate about her research, she decided to click on the link. The next moment, her computer screen filled with black. Emily began to feel that something was wrong. The room began to fill with cold, and the air became heavy and permeated with sinister energy. She tried to turn off the computer, but nothing happened. She was trapped in this dark world of the internet. Suddenly, the ghostly appearance of a woman appeared in front of her. It was the soul of one of the victims of a mystical ritual that Emily had read about earlier. The woman began to approach her, making terrible noises and emitting angry screams. Emily frantically tried to get out of this nightmarish world, but all her attempts were in vain. She felt that the forces of evil were keeping her inside the internet by all means, punishing her for her curiosity and playing with forbidden knowledge. As the days and nights passed, Emily lost more and more of her human consciousness. She became a victim of mystical practices that she studied so zealously. Her soul was trapped in this digital hell, and her body lay lifeless in front of the computer. Meanwhile, in the real world, Emily's friends began to notice her strange behavior. She began to avoid society and spend all her time at the computer. They tried to contact her, but she didn't answer calls and texts. One day, one of her friends, Lily, decided to visit Emily at home. When she came to her door, she found that the house was plunged into darkness and emptiness. Lily called the police, and when they entered the house, they found Emily's lifeless body in front of the computer. The news of the young girl's death spread throughout the city, and everyone was shocked by this tragedy. People started asking questions about what could have led to such an end. Some thought it was suicide, but others suspected there was something more mystical behind it. Lily couldn't just accept her friend's death. She began to investigate and study all the details related to Emily in her last days. She turned to computer experts to figure out what happened to Emily in the internet world. Gradually, Lily began to reveal the terrible truth about what happened to Emily. She found traces of her research on forbidden topics and mystical rituals. She discovered that Emily was trapped in a virtual world created by a powerful sorcerer. Lily decided to fight this evil and save her friend's soul. She began to study occult practices and spells to find a way to get into this digital hell and free Emily. After a lot of research and experiments, Lily found a way to create a magical portal that allowed her to enter the world of the internet. She found herself in front of Emily's computer, where everything was still permeated with sinister energy. Lily got inside the virtual world and began her dangerous pursuit of the sorcerer. She faced various obstacles and traps, but despite all the difficulties, she did not give up. Finally, Lily found the sorcerer and fought him in an epic battle. With the help of her new magical abilities, she defeated him and freed Emily's soul from his power. When Emily returned to the real world, she was grateful to Lily for her dedication and courage. They both vowed never to play with forbidden forces again and to remain cautious in the internet world. This story turned out to be a warning to everyone that curiosity can lead to terrible consequences. She also showed that true friendship and devotion can overcome any difficulties and help to escape from evil. Thus, Emily and Lily were able to escape from the digital hell and return to normal life. They remain forever grateful to each other for what they went through together and for finding the strength to resist the dark forces of the internet. Once upon a time, a sinister user known as the Dark Master lived in a dark and gloomy corner of the internet. He was a master of manipulation and evil, and his only goal was to confuse and destroy everyone who got in his way. people, unaware of its existence, continued their daily life in the virtual space. They communicated with their friends, shared photos and information about themselves, without suspecting anything. However, the Dark Master was watching their every move. He knew everything about them, their strengths and weaknesses, their fears and desires. Using this information, he began to entangle people in his network of lies and deception. He sent fake messages from their friends and loved ones containing threats and scary warnings. People were confused and afraid that someone knew everything about them and was ready to harm them. The Dark Master also created fake profiles that seemed kind and friendly, but were actually filled with traps and false promises. He lured people into his network, where they became his puppets, carrying out his sinister orders. The victims of the Dark Master suffered from a constant sense of anxiety and nervousness. They didn't know who they could trust and who they couldn't. Their life on the internet turned into a nightmare from which there was no escape. But one day, one brave user decided to confront the Dark Master. He studied his methods and found a way to expose him. He created a special program code that allowed to identify and block the accounts of the Dark Master. This user teamed up with other people who also suffered from the actions of the Dark Master. Together, they created an army of defenders of the internet and began to fight against evil. The battle was fierce and bloody. The Dark Master used all his sinister abilities to protect his network, but thanks to the courage and skill of the defenders of the internet, he was finally defeated. The Dark Master's network collapsed and his sinister power was destroyed. People who suffered from his actions could finally restore their lives and safety on the internet. Sometime after the victory over the Dark Master, the defenders of the internet did not relax. They understood that evil could be revived at any moment, and they needed to be ready for new challenges. They created specialized programs and algorithms that helped to automatically detect and block suspicious activity on the network. This helped to prevent new attempts of manipulation and deception. Internet advocates have also launched educational campaigns so that people can learn to recognize and avoid dangerous situations online. They taught users how to create secure passwords, how not to share personal information with strangers, and how to recognize fake profiles. Thanks to their efforts, people have become more aware of the risks on the internet and have learned to protect themselves from potential threats. They began to actively use antivirus programs and firewalls to protect their devices and personal data. But despite all the precautions, evil still penetrated the network. New villains and manipulators appeared, trying to exploit the weaknesses and ignorance of users. But thanks to the vigilance and cooperation of the defenders of the internet, they have always been one step ahead. The struggle for internet security has become an endless war, but the defenders of the internet did not give up. They understood that every victory over evil makes the network a little safer for everyone. The story of the Dark Master became a legend, and it was told to new generations of internet users. She reminded them of the importance of being vigilant and careful online, as well as the power of solidarity and cooperation. The defenders of the internet continued their work despite the difficulties and dangers. They knew that their efforts mattered and that every person they protected was becoming part of the fight against evil on the internet. And so, the story of the Dark Master has become a symbol of hope and strength. She reminded people that despite the dark corners of the internet, there are those who are ready to protect them from evil, and together they can create a safe and kind virtual space for everyone. Once there was a guy named Maxim who was absorbed by the internet. He spent most of his time in the virtual world, forgetting about reality. One day, Maxim noticed a strange announcement on one of the forums. The announcement spoke of a new, exclusive website that promised to allow users to fulfill any of their desires. Being enthusiastic, Maxim decided to take a chance and clicked on the link. When he got to the site, he was greeted by an ominous browser extension. Before Maxim could do anything, his computer started downloading dark and ancient programs on its own, which began to control his mind. Maxim felt his consciousness and personality begin to mix with the dark energy of the internet. Gradually, he began to lose control of his thoughts and actions. He no longer distinguished reality from the virtual world and became a prisoner of his own computer. He began to receive constant threats and warnings from some anonymous force that controlled him via the internet. Every time Maxim tried to get out of this nightmare, his system became more aggressive and began to inflict physical pain on him. One day, When he almost lost hope, Maxim accidentally stumbled upon an old forum where users were discussing ways to resist this sinister force. He discovered that someone named David also faced this nightmare and found a way out. David shared with Maxim his story of salvation. He told him that the force trying to control them is weak in the real world. What was necessary for her to be defeated was to find her source inside their computers and destroy it. Having gained hope again, Maxim decided to follow David's advice. He studied computer systems and identified a sinister source program. With a great deal of determination, Maxim went to the virtual world to find and destroy this program. Inside his computer, he fought huge monsters and faced incredible dangers, but he didn't give up and kept moving forward. Finally, tired and completely exhausted, Maxim found the source of the sinister force and managed to destroy it. After that, his computer rebooted and became normal as before. Realizing how dangerous and unpredictable the internet is, Maxim began to avoid dubious sites and actively protect his privacy on the web. He took care of the security of his computer, installing reliable programs to protect against viruses and intruders. Despite his efforts, Maxim still felt a vague presence, as if he was still connected to the darknet, a network full of criminals and dangerous secrets. This invisible threat haunted him. One day, Maxim accidentally found a fascinating online game that claimed it could help him banish evil from his life. It seemed that this was Maxim's last hope for liberation from his dark internet demons. Not wanting to miss this opportunity, Maxim downloaded and installed the game on his computer. After launching the game, he found himself in the most creepy and realistic virtual reality imaginable. Crazy monsters and gloomy environments were waiting for him at every turn. He realized that in order to survive, he needed to go through a maze of horror, fight the dark forces, and overcome his fears. The battle was bloody and deadly, but Maxim did not give up. He used his perseverance and deep determination to defeat the terrifying creatures one by one. In the end, Maxim reached the final level of the game, where the most dangerous opponent was waiting for him. The battle was epic and desperate, but Maxim managed to find a solution to completely destroy the last source of evil. Immediately after winning the game, all of Maxim's connections with the dark internet collapsed. He felt his nagging fears and anxieties disappear, leaving him with a sense of freedom and liberation. Over time, Maxim found joy in the real world and found new hobbies outside of it. He never plunged into the dangerous internet darkness again, becoming a true advocate of security in the online world. Thus, Maxim came out of this terrible journey on the internet, defeating all the obstacles and demons that pursued him. Every day he became stronger and more confident, realizing that he not only survived the nightmares of the virtual world, but also gained real strength and wisdom.